Apologies for the delays, but we're back at it again. We're going to see Envy up against Enemy, two teams that have been fighting for a chance to go to the Super Regionals. And at the moment, well, we saw a little look at the Envy roster that's coming in for this one, and it's all about Kiki versus Skeely.
I'm really excited.
Kiki and Skeely.
Kiki and Skeely versus up against Marauder and Shattered here. That's going to be the matchup to watch, basically, as well as, you know, T-Money looked pretty good, had a hot Janus snipe in game one. Then, you know, did what I think a lot of people expected from him. We'll have to see how he can do up against Khaos, one of the premier mid laners in the world.
Well, Fast and Furious will be the picks and bans for you to expect. And Bastet and Terror banned out by Envy already. The Bastet shot towards Skeeledon in the jungle after he picked it up earlier on.
He looked really strong on it. I like the ban. Giannis banned away from Khaos, and no surprise there. Ra is left open right now if Khaos wants to select it. Instead, it's going to be the Soul.
Soul pretty much flexible, can go into the dual lane, can go into the mid-roll as well, but more than likely I think we'll see that go the way of the Hunter.
Yeah, that's going to go to PandaCat for sure. And there's the Ra. That's going to be for T-Money. And then the Erlang Shen combination, that's going to be the flex. You know, you don't know if that's going to be Skeeledon, could be in the support role with NeiruMah, or Kiki could even play it in solo.
Could be anywhere. Raijin for the mid lane will give away that PandaCat will be on the Sol in the dual lane, and the Odin. Well, PainDeViande does like to go to that option, and against an Erlang Shen and a Ra, it's a fantastic pick.
It's a fantastic pick against Ra by himself. It's a fantastic pick up against Erlang by himself. Against both, you're getting double the value. Love the Odin pick coming out of Pain.
Amaterasu, Nemesis, Naja, and the final ban for Enemy. More than likely another jungler. Actually, no, it's a bit of a semi-jungler, a semi-solo laner in Arachne, taking away Kiki's option.
May as well, right? You don't want to face it. It's what Kiki is known for. Tom was talking about that a lot during the last set. You know, I remember playing up against Kiki's Arachne in the solo lane and getting pounded by it. It's I love the ban.
This Kuang pick from Envy, I do like it at this stage of the game as well. Just because it's allowed to set up the Raw again with the ultimate. You don't have to use the ultimate from Kuang to execute. It's a free setup, like a mini combo corner ultimate, if anything, to allow the Raw to follow the damage.
And it's really good up against Odin. Odin's got no way to get away from you easily. As long as you're saving your water illusion for that leap, you're going to be able to chase him down very, very easily and try and make a play on him.
No messing around, straight into game, and already you can see a little bit of poke onto Kiki, who is playing Geb solo.
You know what? Why am I even surprised? You know, it's
I'm kind of surprised. I mean, the Erlang Shen was a flexible pick. I expected to be going solo laner here, but it's going to be Kiki on Geb solo.
Kiki comes to the support or to the solo lane, comes back after a long absence for the mid lane, the support role. He was really doing it all, and then he immediately picks two really strange picks. Arachne not as strange as Geb. No. I mean, Geb solo is something that Incon does on his stream when he gets donated to play it. Like, this is not a real thing.
This just feels like Kiki to me is like, listen, it's been a long year. I've had my ups and I've had my downs with this roster. And right now, I'd class it as a downs. But right this second, I'm going to pick all the stuff that other teammates would not let me pick. Because look at me. I am the leader now. And I will play what I want to play in the solo lane.
T-Money's like, are you sure you want to play Geb here? And Key's like, are you sure you want to stay on this team?
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, okay, Geb solo it is, guys.
And you shut your mouth, Skeeledon. You just played low-key jungle last game. You don't talk about my Geb that way. Well, they will get the buffs nice and quick. Obviously, with the Wrath, it does help them a little bit more. And rollout will help him get back to lane a little bit quicker than just manually walking all the way there. So it's not doom and gloom. It's just not going to be a fun lane.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I mean, the round of buffs that Geb saw, the big one was the Cataclysm buff, adding on to that stun time early on in the game, but as well as this, he got more damage and scaling on that rollout towards the end of it, I believe. So that's going to help out his lane clear, even if he's allowed to try and roll from his tower into the full wave. But Marauder's going to step up and take that rollout most of the time.
We mentioned how good Kuang can be against an Odin as well here. Look at what PainDeViande started with here at the beginning of this game. He's gone for the purification. He's very worried about getting executed here.
It's exclusively for that purification, as well as the setup from the Erlang. He doesn't want to be the one to get rooted into the Raw snipe. I like the awareness of the game plan that Envy's going to bring. Pain knows that he's going to be the target on this Odin, so he's going to do everything he can to make sure that he's not going to get abused on it.
Oh, interesting bird bomb coming out from PainDeViande there. Kiki at half health here, but has health potions and multi-potions, so he should be fine as well. We'll just see how this lane plays out, because honestly, it's pretty even in terms of clear. I will give advantage to Sol and Odin if they both get the full combos off on minions.
Yeah, the only way that Envy is going to be able to keep it going is just that.
Beautiful.
Using the 72 transformations to interrupt that bird bomb, stop the clear coming up from Pain. Really well played there by NeiruMah, but you can see, even with that counterplay available to them, Soul is still being the aggressor in that lane.
Gotta give credit to NeiruMah here. For me, he's the one that stepped up on this team out of nowhere, and he's the one that's kind of shined. Obviously, Skeeledon, Kiki, two people on this roster who've played the whole year. NeiruMah, however, has made a good transition onto this team already.
I would say out of the three surprise guests, if you will, for EnVy,
I would definitely call him that, yeah.
Yeah, he's been the one that's impressed me the most as well. I agree. Cabom has played in the SPL before. Oh, hold that thought. Great knock up there from Shattered. Pulls him in.
Feather step as well. Body blocks for days coming out as well. Marauder should be able to clean this one up after a quick knock up, but Shattered's like, no, I need it for my kills in the jungle.
First blood goes to Shattered. I love the rotation and the no fear. Geb's only level 4. We don't have to worry about his damage. You're going to be able to dive that tower very, very easily, picking on the off-meta pick early on in this game.
Very, very true indeed. Good early start for enemy then, just abusing the situation. And it's the same sort of thing we saw at Skeeledon on the last set against the boys of Most Wanted. Focus the solo laner.
Yeah, that was the game plan for EnVy in that last set. Like you mentioned, it was Skeeledon and Kiki, the two tenured players, just trying to throw their weight around and really carry the game there in game 3, and they did exactly that. Skeely and Kiki getting so far ahead, and it's no surprise to see enemy ban out those two gods they played in game 3. Bastet and Arachne both banned here in game 1 of this semi-final match of the Gauntlet. So Marauder and Shattered kind of taking a page out of what they just watched, basically, spending some time, and this is the time that you keep Geb solo down, because if you let Geb solo get farm, he gets really tanky, he can do a lot of damage, he's got the percent damage on his ultimate. That knockup hurts too.
Please though from enemy, they're going to steal away the red buff from the left hand side. Right hand side you saw the teleport from Marauder as well, as Khaos and Shattered rotate around for the speed and blue, but what a good response from EnVy.
EnVy knows exactly what the game plan is, and they're just trading them out. This is perfect play from them. They're not losing anything on this right hand side. They are losing on the left. They lost their red buff to PandaCat, but it wasn't quite as bad.
Well, Team Money's going to meet the makers of enemy in the mid lane here. The last ult does hit through, but Khaos cannot close the distance for the final kill. Now forced to purify away as well, and the rotation from Skeeledon puts a lot of pressure on Khaos. He will be executed. Now Shattered is under pressure as well.
Khaos just wanted that last hit so badly. Now Shattered has to run away from Skeeledon, going to be able to use Suku to jump to safety, but once those ultimates didn't kill Team Money, Khaos just has to back up there, man. Just really wanted to make that play. Instead, he ends up paying his life for it.
It was a rough situation for them to be in 1-1 now. However, right-hand side, Marauder has pretty much got 500 gold for his team already in 4 minutes. That tier 1 tower is literally on its last legs.
So you pick Geb solo and you're like, all right, what's the worst that can happen? You know, Guardian's working the solo
lane. You lose lane.
This is the worst that can happen. You give up first blood early on, your tower's going to fall around the 5-minute mark, basically. Kiki finally able to full clear the wave. At this point, level 7 right now. Gonna be able to back and finish off the boots. We'll have to see what boots he wants to go for here. He could go for the tank boots, doesn't want to get CC'd by Khaos for as long, but it's gonna be the cooldown boots. Gonna be throwing out knockups and shields left and right.
The way enemy started this game though, aggro, to me, it kind of instigates that they're just going in for the all-in play early on. You can see a Doom Orb already on Khaos. He's going for an aggressive option here. You saw the plays into the invade of a teleport from Marauder for a 3-man invade on the speed buff. Enemy are just looking to snowball the game really quickly and not let this team have a chance to get into it.
And I'm okay with that game plan because they've got great early game potential. They've got the Raijin, who's excellent early on. You got the Awilix, who's obviously really good early on. We talk about that all the time with her. And the Odin support, you want that damage to stay relevant for as long as possible. And if you can get a lead, that damage is going to stay relevant for even longer because the enemy team won't have the levels, won't have the tankiness to deal with that bird bomb combination. I like the idea from enemy to win early and win hard.
Let's get it on to rotate around to the right-hand side here. Marauder doesn't recognize it just yet, but for the most part, he's just focusing on the wave clear more than anything. Skeeledon not going to go aggressive here, just hanging around, soaking the experience.
The only way that Marauder dies to a gank from Skeeledon at this point is if he gets CC chained perfectly. If Kiki uses the knockup, uses the Cataclysm, and there's no way for Marauder to get that ultimate off before Skeely could get the execute.
Well, Skeely's still sat against the right wall there and not moving. I'm a little bit concerned. He may have DC'd. No, he just decides to sit there for a whole time, watch Vamana come in. Oh, he's DC'd. He has. Very unfortunate for the EnVy boys here. And then on the right-hand side, where you can see Shattered has recognized the situation and picked up Kiki. Another kill the way of enemy. Very unfortunate.
The Geb solo not paying off thus far right now for Kiki, sitting down about 1,200 gold. That solo tower is going to fall with that kill from the rotation from Shattered. So the idea to throw off the boys of enemy, it's easy. It's a lot easier to throw off a team like a Challenger Cup team that hasn't seen it all, that hasn't been in the scene for a while. When you've got tenured players like PainDeViande, like Shattered, like Khaos, they aren't phased by something like Geb solo. They're just like, okay, you can pick that. We're just gonna camp your brains out.
The boys of enemy have probably tried things like that themselves anyway in the past. I mean, we've seen them pull out things in the jungle that we haven't seen in a long time. Bastet coming back into play was brought about by them realistically.
And the Arachne. Shattered likes to play Arachne as well.
So they basically just taken enemy's god pull and tried to use it for themselves to get them to this stage. But now the Geb, it's an interesting one. We've discussed it. I've seen people discuss it before that it can solo lane, but it's not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it's certainly not. And one of the reasons that you hear that it can solo lane really well is because of the really high damage on his 2, on his knockup, as well as the damage on rollout can be really effective if you can hit up to level 20 and you can build sort of hybrid. The problem with it is that you have to build health because your shield scales off your health, right? So if you want to be giving high health shields to your teammates, you need that health in your own kit. Another reason that it can work is because Cataclysm is % health. I mentioned it earlier. So no matter what damage you're doing, as long as you're leveling up Cataclysm, it's going to be doing more and more health for that ultimate. So the more levels you can get on Geb, the more effective that ultimate can be. The problem is that he doesn't have safe wave clear. We've seen how he has to use rollout to get to the wave, knock it all through, and then turn around and use a shockwave. But now you're sitting there with nothing left. You've only got your shield, and you can see enemy abusing it very, very well.
Well, and this as well, don't forget, this is the Gauntlet, and because of that, all these games are played over the course of a whole day. It's not something a lot of these players have had to do for a very long time. If you go back to the Challenger Cup days, or you've been in the Challenger Cup yourself, you know how much of a long day it can be. Some of these players have played in it in the past, but it's been a long time, so they're getting a refresher course of how long these days can take, and that can really impact. Stamina is very important.
It is not easy. It is not easy, let me tell you. I mean, we would do qualifier tournaments for the SCL that I played in. There'd be 100+ teams in those. You know, you can win real quick, and then you have to wait for 3 games, and you can't really walk away and go do what you want. You still you got to be there. You know, if Coop calls you, and you got to answer that call. You can't ignore hi-rez Cooper's calls. So you're right. It is definitely very taxing. The benefit for these teams is that they've just been to LAN, and LAN can be very similar to that, where it's a long day of Smite. You have to be mentally invested throughout the day. That's the hardest part, is staying focused for that long at this high of a level. It is very draining to do that over a long period of time. So having been to LAN recently will help these teams, especially those that were in Group D, which is Enemy and Envy here right now. They're a little bit more used to it. They're still kind of in the swing of all-day Smite, but it isn't easy.
And on top of that, Allegiance, they've been waiting all day themselves. They've been watching these games closely, more than likely, to actually work out what the opposition is going to be playing every single game, and then preparing for their match against whoever wins this best of 3. And in this best of 3 right now, it's looking good for Enemy so far. 2-1 in scoreline, gold leave about 1,500, and a tier 1 sour just falls.
Yeah, already 2,000 gold at the 6.5-minute mark, but this isn't over yet. Envy's late game composition is phenomenal. They've got great front line with the Geb, who's going to be built hybrid. You're going to have decent front line with NeiruMah as well, and the sustain from T-Money is going to make it difficult. Plus, the late game damage from Skeeledon is going to be really intense.
Well, we saw T-Money snipes on the Giannis earlier on, but that raw one there was just a little bit too far away, unfortunately. I'm not sure if Pain got away from it in time of the leap or not, but he's got to make sure he hits those. They're important. You've got to communicate well.
Yeah, that's one of the difficulties of playing with a new team for the first time and playing a setup-heavy character like a Raw. You have to be on point with the snipes. That's what made it so successful for Eager in particular during Group B, was how quickly Best was able to pull the trigger off the setup from a Roar on this Erlang Shen support. Exactly. And coming together like this, the way that Envy has with this new roster, you just cannot build synergy that quickly. It's not possible.
Well, both sets of Harpies about to spawn. You can see Pain walking right up and needing a free poke from Skeeledon there. But he has gained control of the Harpies for a second or two, looking to Burr Bomb to secure, and will do so. Enemy pick up the right ones, left ones still available.
Khaos is doing a good job of making sure he's staying ahead of T-Money in the mid lane, thanks to plays like that from PainDeViande, securing those mid Harpies for his team. He's got the 34 stacks on that Doom Orb. No mobility yet, but a ton of damage.
Knock up, not going to hit onto T-Money there, just deal a bit of damage and walk away. The left-hand Harpy's now going down. Pain still hunted in mid lane though here at the moment. Aggro, is he really still looking for picks on Raw right now?
He could, but you have to be worried about Geb around the backside. Shatter doesn't know he's coming. There's a Cataclysm, snipes on the mark that time, and the Geb solo picks up the kill.
And that's just a really good situation for the boys of Envy to be in. Marauder was not around to get involved in that engagement. Geb comes in unchecked round the back. back and causes the setup to be absolutely perfect. That's how you land the snipes.
Plus, purification is down right at that point for Shattered. It had been forced earlier on, so that's the perfect setup that you did. I mean, T-Money's got to be the one who's going to be making the plays here. They've got so much set up for him. The 2 knockups, the pin, the Cataclysm, the toss-up from Kuang if they don't want to use that as the execute like you mentioned. It's going to be up to him to be on point with the snipes. And it's no coincidence that Pain gets away when the snipe is missed, and then Shatter dies when the snipe is hit. That's exactly how you drop the comp.
And I really feel Envy want to make this a bloodbath game more than anything else here. What they should be looking to do is like find picks, force fights in awkward positions, and just use the fact that enemy won't be able to group up as a whole and make their composition work.
Exactly. That's what you do up against Ra to make it difficult on him. If you get up into his face, he can't stay away from a distance, heal his team in the back, use the snipes from a distance. That's where Ra's at his strongest whenever you're not right next to him. But right next to him, all he's really got is that 2, that blind that makes it difficult, but you can really stick to him fairly easily, even through that ability with the strong slow and the blind. It can make life very, very difficult for Ra, and that's usually when you see compositions do well up against this sort of healer setup comp that a lot of teams have started to run.
Well, you see both the Hunters there. PandaCat as aggressive as usual. Hold that thought. Marauder's overextended here. Snipes, knocked up straight after. Can't even get Big Baby online. He can in time, and the regen's coming through. The heals are down, though. The dot damage will keep Marauder in Big Baby a little bit longer, and the regen is kicking in. Gonna have to look to dash away very soon. Chooses the right option right now. Skeeledon out of mana, but round the corner comes NeiruMah.
But here comes the ult from Khaos. Huge drums through the jungle. NeiruMah gets knocked up, pulled in by Shattered. Finally, the pin finds him. Pain's going in. Multiple enemies are low. Great cage, catches 3.
And now it's on to Kiki as well. The feather step from Shadow, pick up 1. Great knock-up, however, coming up from the gust from Cabom will slow them down again. It's 1 for 1. Solo for solo, but enemy are looking at the speed buff.
But that does favor Envy until the speed buff gets taken, and then it's a little bit more even. But killing this level 13 Vamana is very, very big for them. They need to keep Marauder down a little bit better than they've been doing. Finally, they're able to pick him up. That took forever. It looked like he was even going to be able to get out. Great ult there from Khaos, did a ton of damage in the jungle, but just not quite enough for that 100-0 potential quite yet on that Raijin.
Interesting game. Enemy still take the lead at the moment there. PainDeViande did look towards the red buff, but on his own, he didn't really want to hang around there too long with 4 members of Envy turning up either. Meanwhile, Marauder did not die in that engagement. No, sorry, he did die towards the end, but he's already back in the enemy jungle, where he was a minute ago, stealing more buffs.
Thanks to the teleport, he did it again. He's teleporting deep into the enemy jungle, just making it so Kiki cannot get his own buff. Even with the Wrath on the Geb, he's got to be in the right place, the right time, and the Wrath has to be up. None of those boxes are checked for Kiki, so he loses yet another buff.
I really feel Marauder, the last half of this split, has had to just deal with so much jank in the solo lane that he's gone up against, and he's just gone, just pick me Vamana. Like,
he's just like, I'm done with this.
Just give me Vamana every game, and I'll just deal with it, and then get ahead again, and then proxy farm a little bit more, and then smash people in Big Baby form.
You know
again.
what? It's time for Marauder to bring out the jank, though. Put this man on Hu-Yi. Did you see that
true.
Hu-Yi game at LAN? That was nuts.
That's true. If you can hit those ricochets like that as regularly as he did, and it wasn't just like a single double shot every now and again, it was like triple shots constantly. It was crazy.
I would be putting Marauder on Hu-Yi all the time. They're just waiting for 3.21, man, when the buffs come out.
Though, it's not too bad, I guess, because obviously he doesn't have to rely on crit. He's just got the pen.
Or you could just go Vamana, drop his tower at 5 minutes and take all their buffs.
Which is a much better situation.
Much better situation, but it's a lot less fun to watch.
It really is. Well, he's got Pestilence online already here to deal with the Ra, as well as Wick on the Frostbound Hammer as well. So soon these targets will have an even more difficult time escaping the baby.
I really like the build order coming out from Marauder here. The Pestilence is just cheap health, cheap magical protection, as well as the passive is going to benefit him very much as well. I would like to see Pain not go for the Pestilence here. If Pain's going to be around Ra, he's going to have the cage down. So the Pestilence aura doesn't really matter a whole lot anyways. A Heartward Amulet would really help out his team up against the damage coming out of T-Money, Kiki, and Skeeledon.
With his build so far, it's not going to be a Heartward right now. It'll probably be a Bulwark, I guess, more than anything else here.
No, you can go Heartward out of that tree, out of the Silver Talisman
right.
tree. Yeah, you're good.
So normally when I see that item, I'm like, oh, that's Pestilence.
It's either really Pestilence or Bulwark, like every time.
I never see it as Heartward. I mean, whenever I look at the tier 2 of that version, because it's normally like already finished by that point. 3-3 then, 12.5 minutes in, no Gold Fury down, but Gold Fury control is in the way of Envy right now. It's 3,000 gold, 5,000 experience the way of enemy. And my oh my, is this important for enemy here. These guys, at the start of the year, were probably touted to be one of the best teams in North America. Nobody rated them at the start of this year, and then everyone started to rate them, and all of a sudden, it's not gone very well.
But as usual, the second you start to count enemy out, the second they start to look like world beaters yet again. I really thought we'd see a performance like that from them at the Group D. We did not. Now's their chance to prove that they still belong in Super Regionals. They've got to win this set and the next one against ALG.
Marauder looks to seal away the speed buff. Not going to get it away from Skeeledon this time and still committing a little bit heavily here. Hit the double tap of NeiruMah on the backside. I don't think it was really intended. And the reinforcements for EnVy show up in time, so Marauder can just walk out one more time there again. I would like to see as this game goes on though, Aggro, that this Geb play by Kiki, that once he gets himself a lot more tankier, I want him to bait himself to get pulled on purpose. I want to see him get pulled in because a Geb in melee range is going to set up the free cataclysms every time.
It's going to really kind of accentuate the fact that he didn't pick up Blink. He's asking Shatter to blink him in. He's going for the Sunder. Yep. And I like the Sunder pickup here. You need damage on this roster from EnVy, and Sunder's going to help you do damage.
Well, Golfury's going to get pulled here. Kiki's the first to show his face with Skeeledon, and everybody else just hanging back. Team Money very, very far back here, worried about getting nicked off. It doesn't allow enemy to get the left-hand harpies here, even if they don't go for the Golfury.
Pain coming around the back, looking for NeiruMah. Again, the cage you think of mostly for the Raw, but against the Erlang Shen is extremely potent as well. Erlang did not pick up Phantom First Relic. Kind of surprised to see that, but it's paid off thus far. Only no deaths for anyone except for Kiki so far, and that wouldn't have helped him with that Phantom whatsoever. I'm assuming he'll be going for that second Relic here.
This just feels like a slow bleed from enemy now. They're just controlling the jungle every which way, and it's not really coming out well for EnVy because of that. They don't have a band-aid, it seems, to stop the bleeding, so the bleeding's getting worse as time goes on.
For now, yes, but like I mentioned, this late game sort of potential for EnVy's composition is very, very high. It only takes one time for Kiki to come rolling around the back where no one sees him to get a big Cataclysm off into a Sunder to make sure that someone gets one shot, and then you've got the sustain. There's no sustain on the side of enemy, whereas there is a ton for EnVy. You've got the raw sustain, and then NeiruMah is going to be able to sustain himself with that ultimate as well. So we've seen this time and time again. These compositions look a little weak in the early game. Then one team fight goes even around 15, 20 minutes. But the team that goes even when you've got the Raw, that's not even. That's you winning outright.
Well, Skeeledon here, level 13 on the Kuang. What locked towards him for the late game, as Aggro's saying here. Has his Polynomicon finished as well and the Blink online, so he can start to turn up the pace a little bit more here, especially his opposition in the jungle. He's 1,200 gold down to Shattered right now, but it's not all doom and gloom if you are the Kuang.
No, and that's, you see that gold deficit because of the amount of buffs that have been invaded on that right-hand side. There hasn't been a blue buff going the way of EnVy since the very first one. Speed buff, Skeeledon's only gotten one, I believe, of his own. He stole one away in the counter invade, but you're in an okay spot if you're Skeeledon right now. We actually see two Void Stones coming out, one for Kiki and one for Raijin for Khaos. I really like it on Kiki. I understand it on Khaos. I just feel like the one-shot potential, you kind of lack it by going the Void Stone.
Well, here we go. Golfury's down below 25% health already. Kiki trying to get in range, but gets sat inside a ring, and Geb can go nowhere. Free Golfury for enemy. You actually saw Kiki beside mid lane all this time as Marauder was just split pushing all the way, and now Skeeledon, he's the one to go over there and defend against the Vamana now, and it can look for the invasion of the speed again.
It was Kiki actually role-playing as the jungler there, and Skeeledon swapping for the solo. Yeah, exactly. He forgot he was moving to the solo. Pain, no cage available, but they are looking at Kiki's running into the blue buff here. 3-man Cataclysm, going to buy him a little bit of time, but there's the knockup.
War as well. The shield will protect him a little bit, getting a little bit of support there as well from NeiruMah with that shell, but the Thunder Crash in and a Bird Bomb too, and a quick spin to win from Pain. Will take out Kiki. Who's next?
Skeeledon could be next. Very low, no ultimate available, still does have the beads. Looks like the speed buff was taken by EnVy. They were able to secure that at least. NeiruMah is going to pick it up since Skeely's going back to
Pain's
base.
Keeping him busy because it allows his team to push in the mid lane at the same time here. At the same time, Cabom is here to defend, but he's against 3 members sieging it down, and Sol will make light work of a tower at this stage of the game.
And we haven't even touched on PandaCat on this Sol. Nope. This is one of the gods that PandaCat is most comfortable on. He's a late game hyper carry, and there's been a lot of talk from me particularly about the late game potential for EnVy, but the late game potential for enemy is also really, really strong. I mean, you've got the Raijin, you've got the Soul, and Marauder on this Vamana can be late game oriented. It can be very difficult for Team Money to get away from this Vamana in the later stages of the game, as long as you don't see the big baby too early. A lot of times whenever Vamanas pop that ultimate too early, that's what spells their death sentence, but Marauder has looked so strong on this that I expect him to make Team Money's life very, very difficult.
I'm just not so sure about the Geb, man. I mean, it's not worked so far. 1-4-1, you know, you've tried to do something different in the solo lane, but you walk into Marauder who just picks Vamana against it, and the enemy team had already drafted, I believe, the Odin before you pick up the Geb there. there?
Yes, they have.
So in that case, you're picking a Geb into an Odin, which is not the greatest pick in the world to have to deal with, just because of the fact is you cannot get out of the ring.
No, I agree with you. It was a good attempt. You know, you've got 3 games. You've got a game to play with here in the best of 3 set.
I mean, Loki was still up, right?
Loki was still up, but that was Skeeledon who played Loki in the jungle.
But still, like, you could have run anything you choose.
Loki Loki can do very well up against Raijin. Now, you think of Raijin as a counter for Loki because Raiju marks him for your entire team. You can see him on the minimap. But when Raijin's up in that ultimate, it just allows a Loki to come around the back and backstab him for extra damage.
Well, Skeeledon's trying to gank onto Marauder here. The rollout versus the baby charge will force the Cataclysm knock-up to follow up as well. The burst damage is good, but Meditate comes through. And Big Baby for Marauder just to answer the situation. What that's allowing now, though, is for Enemy on the left-hand side to look at another Tier 1 tower.
I think Enemy was going to look at this left-hand tower no matter what. Even if Skeeledon was on this left-hand side, at least you force out the Meditation and the Big Baby from Vamana at this stage. Tier 1 tower already dead, and PandaCat is just going to shred this Tier 2.
Yeah, they're just looking to push it down a little bit more, but the rotation on where men are, they've got to be careful. Kiki's here, though. Drums of war sounded, and Kiki's trapped in a ring again. All alone and isolated from his team. No sustain able to save him this time round. PandaCat credited for the kill. Skeeledon tries to do some work, but forced to illusion out, and another kill the way of Enemy.
No Phantom there for NeiruMah to help out his solo laner. He's gone for sprints. No way for any of these characters to get out of the Odin cage, and there was Kiki. Gets stuck and pinned and just nowhere to go.
Skeeledon still looking to take a trade, and that trade did not go well for him in the end. He's forced to illusion out again. Enemy still grouping up here for minions, as on the right-hand side, Shattered has made a rotation to help out Marauder and make sure they pick up the speed buff once more. This is Enemy just slowly whittling away for free, and that knock-up could spell doom for Cabom, but luckily he can purify the Gravity Surge, but can he purify the Feather Step?
Oh, the airstrike the wrong way, got turned around. Marauder TPs into the jungle. Tell me if you've heard that one before. T-Money in some trouble, forced to use the purification as well. Marauder has just been pushing the tempo for Enemy this entire game.
Meanwhile, talking about pushing, look at mid lane. There's a good old PandaCat taking a Tier 1 tower for himself. He'll get it and walk away with it to separate as well. Enemy just making this game look really simple right now.
Yeah, this is Enemy looking like old Enemy, and EnVyUs looking like they've got 3 players who just joined the squad. I mean, that's really what this comes down to, at least in game 1, though we've seen big turnarounds from game 1 to game 2. I mean, you watched some of the games during Group D. Enemy would get destroyed in game 1 and then come back looking like their old selves in game 2. Wouldn't be surprised to see EnVyUs do the turnaround as long as they can pick something a little bit more, not even more traditional, but just something else, just something Geb. I'm fine with Kiki going for another strange pickup in this solo lane, but not Geb.
I think I want to be clear as well, though, it's only been Geb that's died on the side of Envy here. So it's not all doom and gloom. There has been 3 different people on the side of Enemy that have died. So if you work it out in the grand scheme of things, if you're playing a ranked game at home right now, then you've got 1 feeder on your team, but the other team has 3.
Kind of, but you're also down 10k gold because the enemy's been able to just do whatever they want around the map. Like right now, you see 4 people over in the solo lane, whereas there's Shattered pushing down a tier 2 tower, uses the ultimate to get the extra attack speed and power while his teammates are doing the Gold Fury.
Here's a 5-gen call from Envy again. It's going back to the old of Envy. I don't think they've got confidence in their ability to perform against these boys of Enemy here. They've come in with a hope and a dream. It's not going well, so they're looking to just kind of have fun with it and still try and play and find a win. They're going to pick up 1 kill in the jungle onto Marauder. Next on the list is going to be Pain, who's going to drop the ring and laugh at them as they sit there trapped inside. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, Shattered will look at taking a Phoenix.
And there's no way, actually Khaos explodes Skeeledon. No way for him to get away. Kiki is the only one who's able to back the rest of Enemy, chasing down the members of Envy to make sure they can't help out their solo lane Geb defend the Phoenix.
Yeah, well, the Phoenix will stand for now, but on the right-hand side, that tier 2 tower is about to fall as well. With PandaCat coming round, he'll probably claim the bounty for that for himself. Nope, he wants T-Money's life instead. T-Money gets a big shield from Geb. The drums of war sounded. T-Money still stands on the backside, though. Shattered is fighting too. Cabom half health, forced to run back to safety as the tier 2 tower finally falls on the right-hand side.
T-Money may be able to survive, but the tier 2 does not. PandaCat sitting at the top of the player damage charts right now. Only 1-0-0. He hasn't been in on the kill Geb fest on this right-hand side, but he's still doing what you want your soul to do, pushing down towers and providing excellent poke damage.
And with that as well, it's not just going to be Kiki that dies anymore. Skeeledon did die finally before, so it's okay, Keeks. We still love you.
Oh, the two players who have been on Envy the whole time are the only 2 who have died this game.
It's like it's law by this point. They have to. Just to follow tradition.
Yeah.
It's traditional.
Unfortunate so far this game, but I still think that you could see Envy pull out something interesting in game 2. I'm a big believer in Kiki's Loki in the solo lane. We can see that again. Skeeledon in the jungle as well. You may as well go for it, man.
You could try something different. I mean, I can understand trying the Geb, but at the same time, after the first couple of kills, you're like, this is not working, and it's not going to continue working. Marauder, level 20, nearing a full build already. Nearly 2 items ahead of Kiki if you factor in the fact that he's still got a starter item down that Geb.
Yeah, Kiki going for what looks to be a Spirit's Robe. Could be Spirit's Robe, could be Mantle of Discord. With Mantle of Discord being so expensive, Spirit's Robe I think would be the better pickup at this stage. Just getting something for yourself, that extra CDR, that passive that works so well. You're not going to get as great of effect out of the passive against this enemy roster as you would like, but it's still going to be really good.
I do feel, though, there is a small window for Envy here, and I'm going to say this again, just because they've got this Geb, and Geb late game actually does a train load of damage. And not only a train load of damage, but his shields will be massive because he's actually got items online too. So he could potentially make an impact on that Geb if they can make the right play.
But he doesn't have any extra health. We talked about how he needs health to make that shield worthwhile. None of the items he's building have health. There's the Cataclysm, but Khaos doesn't care, just raining in the damage. Great snipe though, puts Khaos at 1 HP.
Kiki's still alive. It took a long fight, and you can actually see this fight could actually go the way of Envy, but the problem is the level difference and the gold difference between these two teams. Skeeledon's the next one to fall. NeiruMah's trying to keep them zoned on the backside. It's Cabom and T-Money both eat a Stellar Burst, come for a gravity ride to Shattered. NeiruMah's caught out in an awkward position. Turtle form chased by a kitty, and then the bird bomber will secure.
All 4 members dead, only T-Money alive. He's very low, has to go back to the fountain. Luckily for Envy, the rest of enemy has to return as well. Khaos got forced out of that fight early on. It was a good initiation from Kiki, and if the teams were even, that would have been Envy's fight in spades, but with how big of the lead that enemy has been able to amass up to this point, I mean, we're looking at 16,000 right now. I mean, it's huge.
Just PainDeViande at the bottom. That's really bad news for enemy there. Look at the player damage. It's all enemy, and Pain's on 3K.
And the cage really hasn't been as impactful as you would have thought up against this composition.
Has it needed to be, though? Has it needed to be?
No, it really hasn't,
because it's been really used.
Because Marauder's just been doing so much damage. Chatter's been setting up for his team. PandaCat's been doing his job as well. PainDeViande's just been able to go on the ride.
Too early. And goodbye, T-Money. You will be missed as the Thunder Crash and PandaCat pick up the kill with the in-hand. Firegiant's going to fall down here as well at 25 minutes in. An enemy can look towards the right-hand Phoenix as there's a minion wave waiting for them.
That's T-Money just playing for the Giphy Cat.
I mean, he had to. There's no
he had to.
get back into this one.
I've got no problem with it. You may as well try and go for that snipe. You're already going to be up in 30 seconds, so you're only going to lose 1 Phoenix anyways. And it looks like Envy's willing to concede that right-hand Phoenix at the very least, trying to get at least 500 gold.
You saw the pings, though, from enemy. There's actually pings into the middle Phoenix and the right Phoenix. They want 2 here, I feel. The boys of EnVyUs are now realizing that they have to back to base where they've already lost 1 Phoenix. They'll be back to defend the second one, but I don't think they'll even be here in time before the second one even falls down.
No, they got to defend this right-hand one, though. Otherwise, what are you defending? I mean, Skeeledon finally starting to back right now.
I just think anyone on the side of Envy hates me. Like, they do this to me in games so many times now. I'm getting terrible flashbacks about it. Kiki goes in, gets a bit of poke off, has no Cataclysm available there. Good knockups onto 3 targets though, but the ring comes into play, and Kiki's already dead. The drums of war will also take out Skeeledon, giving the credit they killed to Marauder. 3 Phoenixes down, 12-4, and the boys of enemy will play it safe and back away and wait for the fight minions to come through.
This isn't so similar. I only see 1 Sunder for enemy.
That is true. Please don't. It's still bad enough. I see a sprint, I see a Sunder. At least the game lasted longer than 3 minutes. That's the best start of this one. And it's a real rough situation to be in as NBA. It is a best of 3, however, so maybe they'll work out the picks a little bit better for game 2. Maybe not pick the Geb into an Odin. Could be a really good decision for them.
Could be. The problem really is that both their jungler and solo laner were low pressure. I mean, you're going up against 2 high pressure gods in Awilix and Vamana, and you picked Kuang and Geb, 2 gods that need a little bit to get going.
And your dual lane is very, very even there as well. Erlang, Shen, and Jing as well up against Sol and Odin. It should be even-ish, depending on how the first wave goes, but it could go either way so easily that you've actually lost pressure in both of your side lanes immediately.
And even if you had pressure in that dual lane, it didn't really matter because the meta right now is that you want to have pressure on the solo side for the first 10 minutes, and then you can worry about the dual lane side. You're willing to give up that red buff consistently if it means getting buffs on the right-hand side, so enemy was completely fine, even if that was a losing matchup.
Rollout charge by Kiki here. We've got a Judy with PandaCat who's flanked around the back, probably looking for Ra if he can find it. Actually going to hit Cabom with that Stellar Burst a little bit now. And Kiki and his boy in the jungle there, Skeeledon, trying to make something happen on Khaos, and Khaos will deny that opportunity.
And here's the ring, gonna keep Kiki in place. place. All the while, the Titan falling to Marauder. It's going to be game one, going the way of Enemy in very convincing fashion.
27 minutes in. Very, very quick game for Enemy. Picks and bans went well for them. Executed the game plan from moment one and just ran with it from there.
And that's what you saw, that Envy picks this kind of strange composition a couple times up against Most Wanted. You see the Loki jungle along with Sobek solo in game two.
Yeah.
And they don't get invaded because Most Wanted also picks two low pressure gods in Nemesis and Xing Chen, I believe it was. And so you're allowed to get away with things like that. Against a tenured team like Enemy, you do not get away with things like Geb solo Kuang jungle.
And you lose your whole jungle.
You lose your everything.
They didn't even invade at the start because they expect a potential Wrath or extra defense coming out from them. So they don't invade, but the next rotation of buffs, it's all over from there. From the solo side of things, means you get every fire elemental, every speed, every blue, and if you want, you get fights as well.
And you get the solo lane tower early on, which means that Kiki's even more exposed. And then you can dive Team Money very easily in the mid lane because the solo laner is not going to have that same sort of impact. There's just, it sounds great on paper. Geb solo, let's get him a ton of levels. Loki jungle, we can just one-shot everyone. But there's a lot more to just team fighting, and there's just so much to it.
Envy are just trying to break casual on ranked games right now, is what it is. Because they picked Loki jungle and it won. They had a Arachne solo and it won. They were like, okay, let's try and really push it here and we'll go Geb solo.
I could see Kiki doing that. He likes to mess with people.
I can see it too. Shawaz was probably over his shoulder going, do it.
Well, no, if Shawaz was there, he would have been playing Cupid.
It would have been Cupid. It's true. It's true.
And we saw that at Super Regionals. And
well, that's game one. All done, taken care of the way of Enemy. Envy have 2 more games still to try and come back into it, but they have to win 2 in a row, and then they have to deal with Allegiance as well.
I mean, they did have to win 2 in a row up against Most Wanted. You recall Most Wanted actually wins a game in 47 minutes, something like that, a game that took a very long time, and Envy was able to bounce back and do it. Skeeledon and really Kiki in particular has been around the scene long enough to understand that things like this happen and how to come back from down a 1-0 situation. But it is going to be difficult because Enemy have also been there. They've also been in these situations where they only need 1 more game to advance onto their next round. So,
and we talk about the tenure of the side of Enemy here as well. I mean, they are a tenured team. They've been around since the start of the year, and you compare that to the Envy lineup, which was made in a week. Yeah. That's kind of the situation. You've got 2 players that have played together. One go into a different role again. Kiki's no longer in the mid lane, no longer in the support role, no longer in the hunter role, now back in the solo lane. Skeeledon still in the jungle. They're the only 2 on the roster. Only Skeeledon is the only person on the roster that stayed where he is.
And whenever the news came out that rosters can be changed for the Gauntlet, it's all exciting. What's going to happen? But to make a team in 1 week is probably not going to be as effective as you would hope.